Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. At the beginning of our movie, we see a slow-motion shot of the ground, followed by images of numerous explosions. It appears to be a mine, and everyone there is completely engrossed in their hard work. Among the crowd, we are introduced to a man named Shotman, who is with his son. Both of them are covered in dust and wearing uniforms that seem to be the standard attire for the place. The son talks to his father about a colleague who had an accident at work, pleading with him to be considerate since the boy was a good worker. Shotman, who turns out to be the supervisor, tells his son that he has no choice but to fire the boy, explaining that personal issues shouldn't interfere with work. The son becomes upset and asks his father to give the boy another chance, insisting that he knows him and that he's a good person. The father promises they will discuss it later, then walks away. As the son turns and walks, a strange creature pushes him aside behind a wall. The father rushes to his son and finds him hanging from a pit, about to fall. The father grabs his son's hand, trying to pull him up, but a strange creature attacks him and pushes him away. When the father gets up to face it again, he finds his son has completely disappeared. After Shotman hits his head, he sees his son badly injured, his face battered, struggling to survive. But something drags the boy into the darkness. A year later, we are introduced to a girl named Arian, who is gathering information about Sham Hills from various articles. She analyzes maps and pinpoints areas around the hills, her face revealing that this is a very serious matter. It's clear she has a passion for adventure, but this seems to be something much bigger than it appears. Suddenly, she receives a voice message from a man named Dan. The man greets her and tells her that he and the guys are packing their things and have brought the basics with them. After he tells her that they will meet her tomorrow, the message ends. We understand that there is a group of 4 people who intend to go on a trip to Sham Hills, and one of them will be Darren and his friends. Then, Ariani takes some pictures and writes names and information on them and starts to think. Here we understand that she did research on these people and that she is following up on who exactly she will travel with. Of course, after all of this, it becomes clear that she is a smart and cautious young woman. Then she holds another picture and looks at it sadly, and the picture turns out to be a picture of her as a child, when she was with her father. The next day, Ariani goes to the place with the rest of the young people, which are Darren and his friends Sean, Terry, and Jamie. When they ask Ariani how many people tried to search for this place before them, Ariani tells them that she does not discuss her client's personal matters with other people. The truth is that this place disappeared from the map after 1970, and no one has an idea what happened to the people. So, Ariani sits and complains about how there are no maps that documents this place and that the road they are walking on has no name. And he keeps saying that they are going to a place that does not even exist. Jim and Terry quarrel with each other, and Jimmy accuses his friend of being naughty and says that he doubts Arian's professionalism. But Trey, in order to defend himself, says that he wants to help, but nothing more. To prove this, he asks Arian if there is anything he can do to help her, and she responds to him and tells him that it is possible if he keeps quiet. Arian stops at a store to get some things, and after she gets out of the car, she tells them to wait for her until she comes back. The young men get out of the car, smelling the air and moving their bodies a little. At that time, a man approaches Sean, and the one who has been sitting quietly throughout the trip asks him if he's okay, and Sean shakes his head and says yes, and we find him holding a black. Ariani enters the store and finds strange things, and the jars are stranger and the shop is dark, and there are barely a few lights in it, so she buys water and a cooler for the car, and after that, Arian asks about the way to Sham Hills, and she says that she was walking on the lake road, but it seems that there is no sign leading to the place they are going to, and as soon as the shop owner hears the name, Sham Hills, he gets scared, and the other man who is with him in the shop gets scared too, and at that moment the man pretends that he does not know anything and shakes his head and says that he has never heard of this place before. But when Arian weighs, the man advises her to turn around from the place she came to be fine, and it is clear from the tone of his voice that he is trying to warn her. And it is as if the place Arian wants to go to is not safe. Arian leaves the shop after what the man said, and after she leaves, we find the man calling someone and warning him and telling him that there are problems coming on the road. And after that, Arian returns to the car, and when the young men, they ask her about the place and she lies and says that they are close. And it becomes clear here that she is not just an ordinary guide, and it becomes clear that she has a hidden motive. After they complete the trip, Sean says that he is worried, and suddenly says that they are not supposed to be here, and it is better that they turn around and come back. He and Darren talk about something, and according to Sean, she is not there, and it seems that it is the scientific material, and suddenly they find a car driving behind them, and then the car slows down and Arian starts to suspect that they are being watched. So she turns the car and reaches a place, and here she makes sure that the car is really driving behind him and behind them. And then it speeds up and everyone tells her to slow down, but she does not listen to them. until suddenly she finds the car behind them slowing down. So she walks on the side road and finds that the car that was driving behind them has passed by. Arian understands that they wanted her to get away from the road and understands that the place where the car they hit it, this is the place they need to go back to because this is the place the other car didn't want them to go to. So they go back and walk the same way, and Arian tells them to watch the place around them until they find an electric fence in the middle of the forest. After they get close to the fence, Darren goes to open the gate, but luckily Arian stops him at the last moment and thinks that it is an electric fence. Sean is hesitant and starts asking why someone would put an electric fence in the middle of the forest. It is clear that they want to keep people away from here, but Darren and the rest of the guys ignore him and think about how they will get past these pictures. Arian takes a rope from her bag and climbs out of the tree and passes over the fence, and the guys walk behind her and pass the fence. Then they reach the Sham Hills mine and collect samples as they walk, and before it gets dark, they reach a place where they can spend the night and set up tents by the lake. They talk a little about Sham Hills, and each one talking about his theories about the place and how it disappeared. And Darren says that from his point of view, there is a hole in this place, or maybe there is a noble gas that came out and completely destroyed the area. We understand here that none of them know what exactly happened, but their friend is not convinced by this whole talk and says that he heard that an accident similar to this happened in Russia, and at that time there was a huge hole in Siberia that was about 1 kilometer deep, and terrifying sounds came out of it when they threw a microphone in it, and these sounds were like people screaming, and they conclude that the United States might have decided to make a hole like it after they saw what happened in Russia. But Darren does not believe the idea, and the guys at that time are pulling each other about religion and science, and Sean tries to convince him again that the natural disaster might not be the real reason behind the destruction that happened, and that there are definitely things that are still unknown. And after that, Darren remains hesitant to believe his face. His friend looked and got up to walk after he got upset and could not accept the fact that his friend was imagining things, and that he was only walking in his mind. At that time, on the other side of the forest, there were 3 people who were driving a girl named Shelby and her 2 friends. Their mission was to fix the problem that happened in the fence where an animal broke it. At first, they were a little worried and suspected that it could be a human, but one of the men lowered his head and approached the wire. After looking at it, he concluded that it was pulled and not cut. This made them suspect that there could be a person there who actually did this. At that moment, they became terrified and tense. An animal was about to attack them from the darkness. One of them, whose name was, took the flashlight and wandered around the area searching it. He stumbled while walking. Suddenly, he received a call, so he said that he would call if he found anything. After he closed it, he continued searching until he found a fence like this collapsed over a hole. And he finds a small opening, and when he gets closer, he hears strange sounds. So he brings his ear closer to the opening and tries to hear the sounds more clearly. But suddenly, a strange creature comes and attacks him and drags him out of this hole and kills him. And when we return to the camp, we find Jamie holding a knife. And Arian, when she sees him, she turns into a hostile person. But it turns out that this knife is very dear to her, and she takes it from his hand and puts it back in the bag. At this time, Terry sits with Darren and talks to him, and Darren tells him that one of his colleagues is the one who nominated Arian to go with them on this trip. On the other side, with the pictures of the guys working on him, Shotman comes to monitor the situation, and when he asks about Arian and the guys with her, he finds out that they did not know that they were trespassing on property. The men tell Shotman that they scared them, and they must have left in time, but Shotman is not very sure. He tells them that he wants them to leave this area and not come back. Then he leaves. The next day, Arian and the guys continue their journey. While they are walking in the forest, they find foam of the kind they use in filming. Doreen asks them if they were trying to record any sounds there. While they are walking, they find the huge hole, but before they can continue, they find that the car that was walking behind them has reappeared again, so they all hide. After they make sure that no one is walking behind them, they leave the hole and continue walking. Finally, after a while, they enter a small deserted place. From the outside, it looks like it has been deserted for a long time. The guys enter, excited, and find the house made like a warehouse. What is strange is that they find fog inside. They watch everything around them and film this with the camera. Arian finds a door inside the warehouse and opens it. On the other side, they find the mine they came to search for, Sham Hills. They find it full of holes, and the area is full of smoke coming out of these holes, surrounded by walls. And when they get close to the big hole, they find electric walls around it, so they decide to remove the pictures and put a camera in the hole. And Terry is sniffing. Like this? Suddenly, he hears a loud noise in the speakers, so he gets scared and pulls them out quickly and makes the others hear these strange sounds, and everyone hears these strange animal sounds, and they don't understand where these sounds are coming from at all. At that time, the poor Terry's leg gets stuck in the camera rope, and suddenly, someone or something pulls him towards the hole, so they all run towards the hole, but they don't catch him. And before they can help him, Terry is pulled to the corner, and the sound of his screaming makes the guys worry, and Arian and Jimmy go down after him into the hole to save their friend. And at that time, they hear the sounds of animals growling coming from all sides, and despite all this, they can't determine. At that time, a strange man comes and gets upset when he finds one of the holes open, so he pulls out a weapon and warns the guys outside and tells them to stay away from the hole. Darren and Sean try to convince him and tell him that their friends are trapped inside, but the man remains determined, so he cuts one of the ropes to close the hole. But at that time, Sean hits him with a brick and makes him lose consciousness. At that time, in the hole, Ariane finds that the rope is cut, and she gets nervous and decides to go out with Jimmy to understand what happened. As soon as they get out of the hole, they see this strange man, and they leave the place immediately, take his car, and leave it there. At that time, Sean gets angry and fights with Darren and insists that all this happened because of him. The guys fight with each other, and Sean asks about the identity of the company that is financing this strange adventure. Before his friend returns, the car gets stuck in a hole. Varian suggests that they continue walking and says they have to reach the wall before night falls. When we return to the mine elsewhere, a strange man regains consciousness and realizes it's dark. He notices the car is gone, so he contacts the station to report what happened. Suddenly, a strange creature attacks him and drags him away. Meanwhile, a group of young people continues walking until they hear a scream coming from the darkness. They decide to turn off their flashlights and use night vision to avoid being seen, proceeding cautiously. But suddenly, the creature attacks them and grabs Sean. Arian, Darren, and Jimmy manage to escape and find a car that appears out of nowhere, offering them a ride. Unfortunately, Sean doesn't make it into the car in time. The car takes the three to Shotman's headquarters. They follow a man inside and enter a room where they are told to stay quiet. Arian observes the place and finds papers with strange drawings of creatures pinned to the walls, along with a picture of Shotman's son. Shortly after, Shotman arrives, and Shelby tells him about Khan, the person whose car the group had stolen. Darren remembers that Khan was one of the company's founders, explaining his connection to the place. When Darren asks Shotman about it, he says it's all in the past and that he's now just someone guarding the area. When Darren asks what he's guarding it from, Shotman replies that he's protecting people like them. Arian becomes intrigued by the mystery surrounding the area and asks Shotman to explain further. He tells her that the place has a notorious reputation, with some viewing it as a terrifying pit and others as a nightmare. Before he can elaborate, Shelby receives a radio message informing them that the creatures have spread across the area. Shelby becomes anxious upon learning that the pit has been opened, and they try to find its location from Darren. Shotman tells them they need to get to the pit and close it quickly before it's too late. Everyone leaves, except for Shotman. While walking, Shelby's partner sends her a radio message warning that the creatures are everywhere and they must not stray too far. Roy sacrifices himself to distract the creatures, allowing the group to hide in a house. Inside, Shelby explains crucial information about the creatures, saying they are drawn to sound and have sensors that can paralyze people with just a touch. She emphasizes that no matter what happens, they must not let the creatures catch them. At that moment, the creatures attack, forcing the group to flee into an underground tunnel. Along the way, Shelby decides to separate from the group to distract the creatures, leaving Arian, Darren, and Jimmy to continue. However, they encounter the creatures again. To defend themselves, Jimmy tries to use a bomb, but one of the creatures grabs it and throws it back at him. The explosion severely injures Jimmy, and the creature drags him away. Now only Darren and Arian remain, both shaken by the loss of their friends. Darren collapses to the ground, overwhelmed with guilt, and confesses to Arian that a secret company had taken over the mine. He explains that they had come to serve a purpose as promised, but he was really there for the money. At that moment, Arian decides to continue alone, but promises Darren she'll come back to save him. In the next scene, we see Shotman near the fence with his team on the other side, ready to confront the creatures trying to cross. As soon as the fence falls, he orders his men to open fire on the creatures. Meanwhile, Arian, terrified, continues walking but is forced to keep going despite the fear. She tries to escape the creatures, exiting the tunnel and hiding when she hears their sounds. Eventually, she comes out, thinking they've left, but a creature suddenly strikes her and takes her hostage. Later, Arian wakes up to find herself on a strange ship surrounded by the creatures. Shelby's lifeless body is with her, and the sight of the creatures is horrifying. When one of the monsters sees her, it strikes her again, causing her to lose consciousness. Hours later, she wakes up to find Darren and Sean. She looks at the terrifying creature in front of her, which appears to be their queen. As she tries to understand, Sean explains that these rare creatures reproduce and colonize like ants. While he's explaining, another creature grabs him and takes him to the queen, who immediately devours him. They then take Arian to the queen, but before she can harm her, Arian places a bomb in the queen's mouth. Taking advantage of the chaos, she grabs Darren and escapes. Meanwhile, the queen collapses, They eventually reach the pit they had entered earlier and climb out using a rope. However, they find many creatures gathered, and one clings to the rope, threatening to kill them. Darren cuts the rope, sacrificing himself to save Arian. As the creatures swarm him, Arian struggles to climb up. Just as she nears the opening, the shop owner arrives and prepares to cut the rope. She pleads with him not to, begging him to save her, but he doesn't listen. At that moment, Shotman arrives, pushes him away, and lifts Arian. Then they find many monsters trying to come out of the pit, but Shotman and the men confront them, and the pit is completely sealed. The next morning, Shotman takes Arian to her car. He tells her that these creatures kidnapped his son, and explains that since then, he has been fighting these monsters to avenge his son. Arian suggests that they inform the world about these creatures, but Shotman says the world is not ready to face this truth at all, and besides, no one would believe them anyway. He offers Arian to stay with him and fight by his side against these monsters. At first, she hesitates and gets out of the car, but then she changes her mind, gets back into the car, accepts Shotman's offer, and chooses to join the team to eliminate these creatures. And here ends the events of our movie today. Stay tuned for new videos and summaries.